Mr. Bud, tell us everything you know.
Well, to start with, Belvedere is actually backwards, so we're going to start at the far end and work our way towards Belvedere. Originally, dating back to the 1800s, when the Dakota Congress allowed creation of several trails, the southernmost route came out of Chamberlain and started working its way towards Rapid City on up to Deadwood. Well, as the invention of the railroad was working its way from the eastern side of the country this way, eventually they decided that they would go ahead and use the southern route as a fundamental basis for their railroad from the Milwaukee line. They made a deal with the Lakota people, paid them X number of dollars per mile, and made a settlement to go ahead and put up railroads. Now, the interesting part of this is that a lot of these towns that you'll hear us talking about, Belvidere, Onwonka, a lot of these small towns, they were put into place for a couple purposes. One was so that if a traveler needed to stop, rest for the night, they could. If they needed to pick up supplies or mail, they could. And some of them were just growing towns. They would either load up with crops, people, cattle, depending on what they needed. You'll also notice, like with Belvedere, for example, it has two great big bodies of water nearby. Well, they would load up the engines in that time with water so that the steam could run the motors. A lot of this also kind of went by the wayside when the engines switched from steam locomotives to diesel. A lot of the waters was no longer needed to be brought on. Things like sand that would be loaded in places like Ajax were no longer needed, and so a lot of those smaller places started to shrink or completely disappear. As you get closer to Belvedere, you can see a couple of these towns actually held out for a remarkable amount of time. When we did the Belvedere Cemetery, it's a rather large cemetery. I was surprised at it by myself. Also, one of the former governors of the state, Ken Berry, is buried out there. But as the railroad progressed and eventually it stopped using passenger service, they pretty much used it as freight. The railroad company actually went bankrupt about 1980. South Dakota purchased the line. Now, about 6 years after they purchased it, they decided to run a couple locomotives over the tracks to see what sort of condition they were in. Thankfully, they didn't come off the rails, but they were really sketchy as far as going over some of the trestles and stuff. So the state finally said, if we're going to do anything with these lines, we'll best just basically build it from the ground up. So they made a deal about 1999. They pulled all the rails and ties for scrap, and they did what's called standby. Basically, if they ever decide to put the railroad down again, they do have legal right-of-way. Farmers don't like it very much, but that's part of the policy of South Dakota. So anyway, we're at what we're at now. There is a little tail end onto that ability because they are rebuilding the Milwaukee line. A smaller company has purchased the rights, and they have extended it from Chamberlain up to Kennebec. And the state is working on securing funds so they can extend it from Kennebec to Precho. Beyond that point, there's a couple question marks if they'll go ahead and make it all the way up to Murdo. A lot of track is still available up there. But like towns like Vivian and Murdo, and then from there on west, there's other towns that thrived when the railroad was here and died when it left. So we might see a sudden resurgence.
I doubt that.
Probably not, but who knows. Now, the second part when we were talking about is Belvedere. Belvedere had a decent population to start with. It was about 2,000 at its heyday. A lot of farmers would bring their crops in there, and then they'd send them out east. Cattle would be moved out. And it's a pretty close distance for the reservation as well, because you could drive from Belvedere down to the White River, which is the boundary line for Pine Ridge. Ranchers down there would bring their cattle up that road, load them onto rail cars, and then send them out east. If I remember right, I think there might even been a slaughterhouse nearby that they could do stuff with the cattle. However, again, once that railroad shut down, there are two options that they ran into was either to go south through Martin, or they could send stuff back up to Rapid. We used to have a meat processing plant up here.
It was a fun one.
Smelled to high heaven. Eventually it burned down. I remember that day very vividly in my high school. They were so fresh. It had clean air for once. But Belvedere, since the railroad pulled out, you can almost see the town dying.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of abandoned buildings. There are a lot of smaller structures. They still have a post office. Surprisingly enough, they still have a retirement home there. Which
I still don't believe it.
I'm not sure how they keep it running.
Maybe the whole population is the retirement home.
It's very possible. This might be the last generation that we see out of Belvedere. But at the same time, you know, there's still farmers out there. There's still ranchers that live in the nearby area.
Yet they have no restaurants, no grocery stores.
They do have one restaurant, and technically they have a convenience store that's owned by the same people. How that keeps the town alive, other than the herd of goats that we saw one time, roaming bands of chickens, and flocks of birds like you cannot imagine. The one gas station they finally did tear down because people were afraid it was going to fall on a car. But around the water tower, there's a little group of homes. They're still occupied. Down by where the old railroad line is, there's now a waterfront and recreational area for people to come in, you know, go fishing.
I can't remember if we included that in our video.
Yeah,
I don't
sure
think
either.
so.
Okay. But
I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's right next to where the lake is. And it's got a little covered area, so if they wanted to sit out in the sun or, you know, when it's raining, they could sit there. But other than that, you know, it's a quaint little town.
That's a town.
Not much left of it, but, you know, sometime if you're ever, you know, feeling like a tourist, swing on through, drive around, and don't forget to get the caramel corn at the gas station.
Oh, yeah, the caramel corn is definitely worth it.
It's delicious. They also have some really good sugar cookies. And the peanut butter cookies weren't bad either. But stop in, say hi, and tell them that you saw this on the Bud Files, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Ready? Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. Today's shout out is our friend Motor City Scratchers. Sorry, I apologize, guys. I know, it's weird, but I'm enjoying it, sort of. I don't figure out the beat. Trying to copy the Blue's Clues mail time without, you know, getting flagged. Anyway, Motor City Scratchers is our shout out today. They've been watching our playlist, so we want to make sure that we support them. And so check them out if you like scratching, lottery, chances, randomness. It is an interesting channel, fun channel. Make sure to check them out. Like, share, comment, and let them know that we sent you. And I apologize if this video is a little bit weird. But next couple, it'll be longer. So be prepared for that. Have a good day. Let's go.
It's Joe from the Bud Files. We're doing a short bonus clip here. This is a town that was known as Belvedere. This was a railroad town, and up until about 1986, when the railroad finally decided to shut down the spur going to Rapid, rendering this town almost empty. There are a lot of older structures. We're going to do a quick little drive through the town streets here. This looks like at one time it may have either been a city maintenance building or a fire station. We got this little structure over here that looks pretty cool. Old structure.
I want to go inside.
Yes, fake storefront, as you can see.
Oh, that one's definitely locked up, though.
Yeah.
They got wires on it.
Yep.
I mean, somebody's tried to get in it in the past. That one's almost gone.
That might have been a garage at one time because of the big door right there.
Right.
That building's not creepy or anything.
No, not at all. Not creepy at all.
No, not that one, on the other side.
And we're going to do a quick turnaround, go back up by the main.
And see the dead coyotes?
No, I did not see the dead coyotes. Apparently missed those.
8th Street. Hey.
BCD. No, just kidding. The one resident wondering what the hell we're doing.
Maybe. I think the population is above 30, but I'm not positive on that anymore.
Really?
There's a senior home out on the end of town that looks like it's probably the biggest part of town.
I was gonna say, I think I saw one of the seniors.
there's so many dead coyotes. I just saw another pile of them.
My guess is it's that time of year, but I didn't even see them, so I apologize. Apparently I'm better at blocking them out than you are.
Slightly modernized place, 611 Main. One time of business.
Oh, that's a cool looking building.
Yeah.
Oh, door's open.
Door's open. Go and walk around.
In case you're wondering why we're not actually doing that, we're not sure how much of the city is actually populated. And I really don't want to get arrested. I like to try to find places where we know we can get in without getting into trouble. This is small town, urban USA, middle of nowhere, South Dakota, where the city's pretty much stopped growing, pretty much stagnant, if not gone completely. That's a cool looking house.
Yeah.
Well, that one I think is being lived in. Well, found to one residence anyway.
Yeah, no trespassing sign on the property.
Look at that. I'd love to go in that one.
Yeah.
Door's open.
Door's open.
Unfortunately, their neighbors are home.
Yeah.
That one's got people in. That one's got people in it. I like the one next to it.
Yes, that one next will be awesome.
It's also open. Looks like they're using it for storage. That one looks like it might be
That
lived
one got
in.
a satellite dish on it, even though the door's open.
Probably for the house next to it. Found a blue bug.
But we're going to circle like this because there was one in the back row that looked promising. Oh,
And that one looks like it's lived in. Hello, hoisies. That one's somebody's house. So, yeah, there are a few residences. I can't imagine living out here.
That has a slight tilt to it. Bug.
He's a bug.
Look at bug.
Just cannot. I mean, you saw how much the gas station offered.
Yeah.
Tons of choices.
And the fact that across the street there was a gas station that was disintegrating.
Right.
Because the roof, I see they finally tore the roof off because they're probably afraid it's going to fall into the gas pumps.
That one's still in use.
Yeah.
That one might still be in use. I don't think that one is.
Use.
I just pointed at that one.
Well, they got a really cool looking garage, although I think it's renovated.
Yeah, it looks like it.
That one there,
I think it's empty.
I think it's empty too. That and the fact there's a half-destroyed trailer back there. Hey, up B Street, to be or not to be?
Wow, you're three cities. No, not more than three streets.
I
What,
think
5 streets?
I think you've got more horses than people in the town.
Maybe.
But I saw another 4 horses over there. And then there was maybe 6 to 10 of them over there in
There's
that
an
field.
old trailer. I don't
Old
think that was
trailer.
anybody in there.
That's like hurricane housing.
Oh, so we've got letters and numbers. We're on 2nd Street.
Second
So
Street.
first, second, third,
2B or
A,
not
B,
2B?
C. So maybe 6 streets.
Maybe.
And they were very creative in their names.
Yes, they were.
Very creative. An old water tower.
Yeah.
I almost got out of the camera view. Oh, that was
Memorial Fire Hall. They do have a firehouse.
There's 2 people at the playground. 3.
I see
I
that.
see that. We've got some children's.
So you have the post office next to the fire hall for Don Duck DeVries.
Take a picture of the firehouse for the boy.
Yeah. No parking, no parking, no parking.
I don't know about you, but I think I should park about.
Yes. What's that sign say? I don't know. There's the Golden West outlet. Seems like every little town has one of these buildings, obviously, to try to keep the cable service up and running.
It looks like those houses are all occupied,
Are they?
probably. Trying to keep the camera off of occupied houses,
Right.
or potentially occupied houses.
Like a yard sale going on there.
I think it's just one of those yards.
Yeah. That collect all yards.
Uh-huh.
Buses. There's a church.
I think it's a church.
Another old house.
Street. Very exciting town.
Yep. At one time, they said the population of Belvedere was over 3,000, and it's dwindled that badly.
I do not believe them.
You don't believe that?
I do not believe that. There's no way there were 3,000 people in this tiny town.
Yeah.
No way. They had to be counting ranchers.
Probably.
That's a cool looking house.
Yeah, that one there. Yeah, and it's empty.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, it's also included for you of a lot of places that are occupied, so.
Yeah, small.
Small downside.
That one there, too. Although I think that was either a former school.
Yeah, that does look like a former school.
Mm-hmm.
Also, where would the children go to school? They'd have to be bused somewhere, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I
Most
think they
likely.
would either be bused back to Kadoka or to Murdo.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
Especially in the
20-mile
winter.
ride, yeah.
In the summer, those buses are so hot. Having been a bus monitor, those things are not fun in the summer.
No. Okay, now we disappear onto the gravel roads, and we're looking for a little town called... What was the name of that one?
Stall?
Stall?
I want to say it was like Stall.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me pull up my
There's
mappy map.
a tree.
I see a tree.
And
One
there's
tree.
some debris around it, because she said that the post office was next to a thing of trees. I don't see any other trees, do you?
No, I don't see a thing of trees. There are trees nowhere. That's why I was bringing up my map. See if I can find it on my map. I just have to get my map pulled up. You guys can see the wonderful landscape while I do that. Okay, so we're still in Belvedere. Turn around. Uh-oh, come on. Okay. Wish I knew how to spell it. Doesn't help that I don't have any like clear signal either. I'm gonna pause this at 9 minutes.